Hi everyone, my name is Corey, and I'd like to continue my sort of conversation on my thoughts on Doctor Who. And when I say Doctor Who again, I'm not talking about classic versus modern. I'm talking about the whole thing. Because to me, it's one story. And what I was saying yesterday, and I apologize for being cut off yesterday, where I live, I don't live. Um, I don't live kind of by myself, and so it's a group home, and so people can come in to help me at any time. So just bear with me. Just a second. Let me let me come up here. Much better. Much better. And what I was saying yesterday was that during the Colin Baker era, for instance, I didn't always understand why they were arguing together. Why, if Perry and the Doctor were friends, did they argue constantly? What was the point? And I had the same problem with the Eighth Doctor, and the same problem with the First Doctor. You don't have companions that you don't like. Now, to the First Doctor's credit, he eventually mellowed out and really enjoyed being with Barbara and Ian and Susan. Right? It changed over time, so it turned out really good. But in the beginning, it was really rough and kind of turn off that you would yell at people you kidnapped, right? It just didn't make sense. And the point is, there's always little things in Doctor Who like this. There's always been things. For example, what if I said Doctor Who ended when John Pertwee left, and I will not watch it now that Tom Baker is the Doctor? Well, I would miss a lot of good episodes, but B, there is a lot of material for John Pertwee. There are books. There are audios now with Katie Manning and Richard Franklin and John Levine, and they're all really good. So if I want to stay stuck in John Pertwee, I can. But I wouldn't go around saying Doctor Who is dead. Right? The show is big enough. It's big enough that we don't have to worry about these things. There's a place for everybody. We need to stop going around saying things are dead. I am so happy, for instance, that we have a unit scientific advisor who's a wheelchair user who has weapons in her chair. And when she was alone with the Doctor and needed to defend him, she just blew the competition away. The Doctor said, "You've got weapons in your chair." And she said, She said, we all do. You have to understand, I'm a Doctor Who fan because when I was a kid, I didn't identify with anyone on TV. Anybody. Right? What was on TV? Michael Knight running around punching the bad guy. The A-Team running around punching the bad guy or building machines. Right? Magnum PI running around driving a fancy car, chasing the bad guy, solving mysteries. But there was nobody that looked like me. Nobody experienced cerebral palsy. And I think that we ought not to have representation for its sake. But when we weave it into the story, it can be really good. It can be really good. That's why I identify with the Doctor so much. I want an outsider. By the way, Tom Baker was the Doctor when I was a kid. He was my first Doctor. But I didn't stop when Peter Davison came in. I didn't stop when Colin Baker came in. They were all different. And yes, there were some doctors I liked better than other doctors. I love Sylvester McCoy. I really thought that was, that it was going back on the right lines. Now, some of the stories are very confusing in the later seasons. Some of the stories are very confusing. I understand why Ghostlight is in Pout. But despite the fact that it's about an experiment and about life evolving, it's still a complicated story. It's still really tricky to watch sometimes. It's cool, but for casual viewers, it's not the kind of thing you're going to be watching. And I am super excited about Ncuti Gatwa. Ncuti Gatwa. First of all, that's a great name. That is a doctor's name if I've ever heard one. And I really want people to give him a chance. I don't want people saying the show is dead just because you only like certain doctors, Every doctor has annoying little things. In Peter Davison's time, it wasn't the doctor who was annoying. He had annoying companions. Why was Tegan there if all she wanted to do was be an air stewardess and go home? Why was Adric there? He stowed away in the first place. Right? So there are always little things like this that will drive you nuts. But it's still good. Peter Davison was a great doctor. Jodie Whittaker will be a great Big Finish doctor if she gets the chance. And if you don't like that era, well, that's okay. There's other doctors to pay attention to. No one's coming to your house and stealing your Blu-ray sets and saying you only can watch David Tennant and Shooting Godfather. I would never do that, and we need to be big enough in fandom to give people room. And, also, you have to be careful about saying Doctor Who is dead, Doctor Who's been dead before, and I lived through that. I lived through a time when the only new Doctor Who we got was Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor. And I was super excited to see the movie. And personally, when I heard the half-human thing, I was super happy because that to me explained why the Doctor was so interested in Earth and human beings. Now you may not like that. That's okay. You don't have to like it. There's enough Doctor Who for everybody. But I've lived through the time when the show was quote unquote dead. There was no Doctor Who on TV. I lived through that. And you want to be really careful when you say a show is dead. Because one thing about the show is that it always comes back. It always comes back. And there's so much to enjoy if you just you can either enjoy your little piece or you can enjoy the whole. Or you can enjoy 1963 to 1989. If my dad were here, the first thing he'd say is the modern stuff is not as good as the classic stuff. He watched the modern stuff because it was Doctor Who, but the format's different. It's not the same. This is a show about change, and if we can't accept change, maybe we've missed the point of the show. Now, I'm not trying to start up controversy. These are just my thoughts. Thank you for your time. And please, let's be respectful of each other. I know everyone's got a favorite doctor, everyone's got a favorite time period. That's the point. There's books, there's audios, there are audio books if you don't want to read, and there are fan productions. When I was a kid, I wasn't playing G.I. Joe with the neighborhood kids. I was playing Doctor Who. And do you know who made it possible? I always wanted to be the Doctor. But my friends were very, very clear that I couldn't be until one day when Peter Davison showed up. And for that first episode of Castrovelva, he was in a wheelchair. And then my friend said the regeneration could go wrong and you could play the Doctor. Now, our plays weren't professionally written. We laughed a lot through them because they were a lot of fun. But we had a good time. And as Peter Capaldi says, we all make Doctor Who. You can look on YouTube, there's plenty of fan productions. There's enough Doctor Who around to keep it going. And it's all available on BBC iPlayer if you're in the UK. It's on BritBox if you're not. No matter what you like, the show is very much alive. And that's the point.